Memory Power Tape number 1. Welcome to the Memory Power course. As you follow us through this course, we will cover many different aspects of your memory. We will start with some background information on your memory that will help explain why you forget things. We will talk about the memory process and how your brain stores information. You will then be introduced to the ancient system that first helped people begin to tap the power of their memories. We'll then trace the development of memory systems through the ages, right down to our own memory power system. How many times have you walked out of a shopping mall and realized that you couldn't remember where you left your car? Maybe you haven't had this particular experience, but we will bet you've had at least one experience where you cursed your bad memory. Whether it was a set of lost keys, a failed test, a forgotten anniversary, or forgotten name, you have probably gone through times where you were frustrated by your poor memory. And chances are excellent that you've been overheard saying, "I remember faces, but I just can't remember names." Well, you may doubt your memory, but you actually can remember anything. You just have to learn how to put your natural memory abilities to use. With training and practice, you will not only be able to master these simple memory tasks, you will be able to memorize long lists of items, names, faces, card decks, telephone numbers, in short, anything you want to remember. Before we explain how you will be able to do this, we'd like to talk about your memory. Have you ever actually sat down and tried to figure out what memory is? Most people think of memory as a thing, some nebulous organ or something tucked away in the center of the brain. But memory is not a thing. It is not a gland, organ, attachment, or growth. A brain surgeon cannot open a skull and take out the memory. It can't be touched. That's the first reason why anyone who says they have a bad memory is wrong. If a memory isn't a thing, it can't be a defective thing. The memories you have are not stored in a specific place. Your third birthday party is stored in your mind, but no one can point to a location on your brain and say, "There's the third birthday party." Memory is actually a process. All sensory process is stored in a latticework of neutral patterns. Try closing your eyes and tilting your head in any direction away from this page. Then open your eyes only for a moment. With your eyes closed again, picture in your mind what you were able to see in that split second. You should have been able to picture rich detail, almost like a photograph. This picture was recorded as an electrochemical, a pattern of impulses stored in the cerebrum. That pattern was momentarily burned into your brain, and a mental image was formed. That mental image is now a memory, a pattern of sensory input stored in the brain. It is this process of burning images in the cerebrum and then recalling the images that we call memory. So then, no one has a bad memory. Unfortunately, many people have never learned to master the process of storing and retrieving information. But you're in luck, because we are going to teach you how to master that process. To further explain how your memory works, we'd like to draw an analogy. Think of your brain as a filing cabinet with no drawers. This filing cabinet is merely a metal case with an opening. Every time you need to put a piece of paper away, whether it be a copy of your birth certificate or last month's Visa bill, you throw it into the cabinet, where it lands on the top of the stack. Now imagine that it's April 15th at 8 p.m. You have 4 hours left before that dreaded tax return has to be turned over to Uncle Sam. But you can't find anything. Papers fly everywhere as you dig through your pile frantically. You would probably never consider using such an inadequate filing system as this, but in fact, most people use a memory system that works exactly the same way. When people say that they can't remember anything, they are usually complaining about their ability to recall things they have stored in memory. But the problem is actually in the way they store things in memory. Most people store things in their memory the same way the documents were just tossed on top of each other in the filing cabinet. So in this course, we are not going to teach you tricks to help you remember anything. Rather, we will teach you how to store anything in such a way that you can put your mental hands on it when you need it. So far, we have discussed two common memory myths: that memory is a thing, and that people with bad memories have trouble recalling things. Let's talk about a few more memory myths and dispel them so you will have a better understanding of your memory. You may have heard about people with photographic memories who can remember anything and everything. They called autistic savants. Photographic memories do not exist. Some autistic savants are able to recite word for word any page of any book they have ever read. They can remember anything. However, they have low IQs. The problem is that people like this cannot attach any intellectual significance to any of the tons of data they store. As a result, they can't even do simple math problems. We are fortunate because to choose between important and trivial information. Unfortunately, this course will not teach you how to have a photographic memory. What we will do is teach you how to remember anything you choose to remember, and consciously, with some mental effort, store in your brain for future recall. You may have heard that memorizing improves memory. Actually, any active mental task will improve or at least maintain acuity. Passive mental activities such as watching television are not mentally stimulating. Reading a book, on the other hand, stimulates mental activity. Memorizing, however, while it is certainly mentally stimulating, does not increase your ability to memorize. In fact, studies have shown that rote memorization may actually cause a temporary decrease in ability to memorize. Another common memory myth is the belief that your memory can get filled up with useless bits of trivia. Some people are afraid that once the memory tank is full, not another drop can get in. The end result is that you will reach a point where you can no longer remember anything else. Another play on the same fear is that even if you can remember an infinite amount of data, you will have a harder time. People who believe this think that they won't be able to remember important dates like birthdays if their minds are cluttered with things like shopping lists, decks of cards, and dates in history. There is actually no cause to worry because your ability to store information is virtually unlimited. Every moment you are storing a plethora of sensory input. Your mind is taking a constant sampling of your environment, ever on the alert for new information, always and forever monitoring the world around you. Remarkable evidence of the brain's ability to store input is given in case after case of brain surgery. The brain has no pain nerves. As a result, a brain surgery patient can be operated on with only a local anesthetic. This is sometimes necessary so that the surgeon can communicate with a patient during surgery. What has been found is that by touching places on the cerebrum with an electric probe, events in childhood in perfect detail. They describe it as more than a memory. It is an actual mental revisit to the original site where the memory was stored. They can recall every sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch related to the incident. The moments of your life. If you live to be 200, you will still be saving up every second of your existence. The healthy human mind is almost infinitely capable of packing away memories. You don't need to worry about filling it up. The clutter theory is also debunked easily. Remember our filing cabinet analogy? Picture a different filing cabinet. This one has files for each major topic, and folders in each file to further. Filing cabinets contain the same information, but the information is much easier to retrieve in the organized filing cabinet. A memory system is like an organized filing system for your mind. People who are afraid that a memory system will clutter their minds with unneeded memories are confusing the ability to store with the ability to recall. You will be storing the same amount of information in any case, but a person using a memory system can recall not only phone numbers, dates, scientific data, and shopping lists, but the birthdays of every nephew, niece, aunt, uncle, cousin, and neighbor. Once you have learned how to efficiently store information for later use, your mind is less cluttered, not more cluttered. Your filing cabinet isn't any more full. You are simply better able to retrieve things from it. You should understand that the memory systems we will teach you are not tricks. They are learning devices that you can study and practice. There is no secret to having a good memory. We can't give you the magic words that will turn you into an instant memory expert. However, we offer you the latest findings in memory research. We have combined ancient memory tools with the most modern developments, and we even add methods you won't find anywhere else. When you read or listen or see, you file away the information according to its relative importance. Without realizing it, you determine how important sensory input is as you encounter it. Memory systems can make a difference for you, not because they help you recall things better, but because they will help you store them better. In a sense, they will allow you to put a little red flag on the information you want to remember that says, "Hey you, remember this. It's important." Your memory is a wonderful tool and in fine working order, but you have never been taught how to use it. You're in luck now because we are going to teach you how. For starters, we'd like to talk some more about the memory process. We will examine how sensory input becomes a permanent memory and how those memories are recalled. This will help you learn the basics of how to have a superior memory. We will start by talking about the recording process. As we have discussed earlier, from early childhood on, you make a mental recording of every experience in your life. Since this is the case, you may wonder why we can't recall every detail of our lives. There are several reasons for this, among them repression and physical loss. Let's talk about repression first. There are two reasons why we repress memories. First, for mental health. Psychologists believe that many unpleasant memories are hidden from the conscious mind by the subconscious mind as a protection. Memories that we couldn't face are buried where we will never see them. Repression may also occur as a defense of the conscious mind, not from unpleasant memories, but from what would otherwise be a constant, overwhelming ocean of memories. Repression may also be caused by anxiety. The student who does poorly on a test or the person who can never remember names may be subconsciously repressing the very information he or she is trying so desperately to recall. The anxiety of fearing that you will forget can reinforce your apparent inability to remember. But repression isn't the main reason we fail to remember. Most failures to recall are related to other causes. Physical loss is another reason we can't remember things. Scientific theory suggests that physical loss may affect memory, at least in old age. As old age approaches, three things happen that may lead to mental atrophy and memory loss. The first thing that happens is that brain cells, or neurons, die every day from birth to death. These cells are not replaced. You can afford to lose many of these cells without suffering any noticeable damage. However, in old age you will tend to lose more cells, and the toll of bygone years will begin to show. In addition to this, in old age the brain produces less of an important brain chemical called acetylcholine. This chemical helps in the transfer of messages from one neuron to another. As less of this chemical is produced, messages have a harder time making their way from one point in the brain to another. Also, the neurons themselves apparently pull away from one another. The gap between neurons becomes greater, and the electrochemical messages that are the basis for memory and thought have a harder time jumping this gap. The end result is slower thinking, more difficulty in forming new memories, and slowed physical reaction. There are other forms of physical loss of memory. However, these forms are rare. One is true amnesia, in which a person can recall only few long-term memories, although the creation of new memories is not impaired. Another is a form of brain damage that may leave existing memories intact, but interferes with the formation of new memories. Such patients can clearly recall incidents before the accident that led to the brain damage, but cannot create any new memories. Although disuse of memories or physical decay of the brain may be a cause of forgetting, most of us can't use this as an excuse for why we fail to remember simple things. The main reason we can't seem to remember is that we never made a conscious decision to store something in memory. We want to stress this point because it is the basis for almost all memory and the cause for almost all forgetting. If you want to remember something, you must consciously store it. If you choose to remember something and know how to store it, you will remember that thing. The reason why you don't remember where your keys were is because when you set them down, you didn't pay attention to what you were doing. You were probably thinking of something else. So it is natural that when you went to find them, you had no idea where they were. Another good example of this is listening. We rarely listen to anything anyone else has to say. We are too busy thinking, planning our own brilliant rejoinder, to actually concentrate on anyone else's words. Because we don't listen, we don't record. It is no wonder we can't remember things. We never listened to them in the first place. You may be thinking, but I always hear everything that is said to me. Well, that is probably true, but there is a difference between hearing and listening. Everyone who isn't deaf hears. You can't help hearing unless you want to cover your ears, and even then a little sound leaks in. Listening can be hard work. We have to listen to every word consciously, interpret the meaning of the words, place the words in understandable context, analyze the meaning of the thought, and then purposely store the new information. It is much easier to concentrate on our own thoughts and wait for the perfect moment when we can interrupt long enough to share our own fascinating viewpoint. Does this sound familiar? Listening versus hearing can be carried over to other senses. You can look at something without really seeing it. You can eat something without really tasting it. And you can touch something without really feeling it. If there is no conscious perception of a stimulus, the memory formed will never be recalled by sheer force of willpower. Even with conscious perception, you will not form an easily remembered memory unless you have a compelling reason to store it for future recall. This is the reason why even memory experts don't remember everything they read. Oftentimes, people will ask a memory expert, "Did you read the paper today?" When the expert replies, "Yes, he did," people then ask, "Then tell me what's on page 14. Well, of course the expert won't remember unless he had a reason to store it, and he did store it in his memory. Unfortunately, even when you do have a compelling reason to remember, you may still fail to record properly, unless, of course, you are a memory expert. The reason for this is that you've never learned how to use your mental tape recorder. And this is what our course is designed to do, teach you how to record things properly so you will remember them later. We don't want you to ever feel that your memory is inadequate again, and you won't. After you learn our memory systems, you will have all the confidence you need and the tools to have a great memory. We have come to the end of the first tape. On the next tape, we will begin teaching you how to record things properly by talking about the retaining process of your memory.
This concludes the recording on this cassette. You may continue the program by listening to the next tape in this series.